Take your clay from this to this. Centering may come naturally to a lucky few, but that was definitely not my experience. When I first started, centering felt like a whole mission in itself, me versus the clay, and the clay was winning. For most people, it's one of the hardest steps to get down when learning how to throw on the wheel, but through trial and error and lots of practice, I discovered some tricks that made a huge difference, and I figured I'd share them with you. I want to note that I won't be going over how to center clay in this video, or at least not in detail. But if that's something you're interested in, let me know in the comments below. All right, so let's get into it. Hack number 1, why it matters. So before learning how to center, I think that it's very important to understand why we center clay on the wheel in the first place. Before you can shape your masterpiece, you need a strong foundation. Centering essentially keeps your piece symmetrical, stable, and wobble-free. If your clay isn't centered, every step after, such as pulling walls, shaping, trimming, etc., becomes a struggle. So master this and the rest will flow. Hack number 2, find your center first. Before a throwing session, I like to take a moment to find my center. Working with clay isn't just technical, it is a full-on sensory experience. This is an opportunity to access the present moment. Tuning into my senses not only makes the process more enjoyable, but also improves my ability to throw on the wheel. Take a deep breath, set the mood. Maybe you want to light some incense, play music, whatever helps you relax. Get in the zone. After I set the mood, I like to set an intention. My intention depends on what my goal is for that session, but to be honest, sometimes I don't even have a goal. I just go with the flow. Most of the time, my intention is simply to have fun, because at the end of the day, that's what pottery is all about. If I'm feeling impatient, I remind myself to slow down and trust the process. If I'm feeling stuck, I set an intention to embrace creativity and just flow with it. It doesn't really have to be that deep, just something to help guide your energy while you work. Don't forget to engage your senses. Remember, working with clay can be a full sensory experience. And to be honest, the more tapped you are into your senses, the easier it does become to work with clay on the wheel. So think about, how does the clay feel against your hands? What does it smell like? How does it sound as it spins on the wheel? Focusing on these details, it pulls you into the present moment, which can help you find your center and make the whole process more enjoyable. Hack number 3, wedge that clay. So to be honest, wedging is probably my least favorite part of this entire process. And in the beginning, it definitely showed, hence why I had so much difficulty centering my clay on the wheel. So learn from my mistakes. You want to make sure you wedge that clay properly. I like to say that wedging is the pregame to throwing, or we can call it the warm-up. It removes air bubbles, aligns the clay particles, and makes centering easier. Think of it as prepping your clay to be at its best before hitting the wheel. If you skip this step or rush it, your clay might fight you later. Keep that in mind. Hack number 4, the wheel is your best friend. If you want to work with the wheel, you've got to get up close and personal with it. So get comfy. Think of it as your best friend. It's there to support you, but you got to meet it halfway. Believe it or not, stool height matters. You want to make sure that you sit at a height where your thighs hug the wheel pan. This keeps you stable and gives you better control. Anchor yourself. Lock your elbows into your body and rest your forearms on the wheel head for extra support. When you're positioned right, the wheel works with you instead of against you. The wheel is your best friend, so get close to it. Hack number 5, let the wheel head be your guide. So this may sound like an obvious hack or tip, but you want to place your clay in the center of the wheel before you actually start to center. Many wheel heads come with concentric circles, as you can see here. You can use these as a guide to find the center of your wheel. If you're using a bat, wet your finger with a little water, turn on your wheel, and then lightly touch the surface to help you find the center. This should leave a slight mark, giving you a visual guide before placing your clay on the wheel. The further you place your clay away from the center, that means the more work you'll have trying to get it to the center while you're throwing. So make your life easy. You want to work smarter, not harder. And that is why you want to try to place your clay as close to the center as possible before you get started. Hack number 6, you are in control, not the clay. I actually think this is a major tip to remember, especially if you are learning how to throw on the wheel. Remember, you are in charge. The clay conforms to you, not the other way around. Think of yourself as a rock, solid, grounded, and unshakable. If you let the clay push you around, you'll struggle to center it. You want to stay firm, stay steady, and the clay will follow your lead. Let's check out the clip. As you can see, the clay is clearly controlling me, and I'm not in control of the clay. I'm wobbling all over the place. My forearms aren't touching the wheel head, meaning they aren't anchored into my body or the wheel head. Therefore, I have no control over the clay, and this position actually makes it nearly impossible to center. Now, in this clip, I'm clearly in control of the clay. My arms aren't wobbling around, they're steady and anchored on the wheel pan into my body. This makes it easier for the clay to conform to my hands. This is the position we want when we are centering at the wheel. Hack number 7, release the blade, which is my go-to move. For education purposes, think of the wheel head as a clock. And to make things easier to follow, I'll be using clock positions to explain hand placement. The blade, which is what I like to call it, is my go-to centering move. So, in order to execute the blade, your left hand is going to be at 7 o'clock on the wheel head. You want to cup your left hand and anchor it at the base of the clay. Keep it firm like a wall, applying slight pressure as needed. Then your right hand is going to come in at 5 o'clock in the form of a blade, as you can see in the clip. You want to position your hand diagonally, pressing in the direction of 11 o'clock with a firm downward motion. Hold steady in this position until the clay stops wobbling and centers itself. Many times, if you just lock in and hold the position for a while, the clay will naturally conform to your hands. In a perfect world, centering would always be this easy, just using the blade and voila, magically centered. But let's be real. It usually takes extra stabilization or maybe multiple methods, especially when you're starting out, which brings me to my next hack. Hack number 8, when in doubt, wrist lock. If the blade technique alone isn't working for you just yet, try this, but keep in mind, if this move causes discomfort or pain in your wrist, it may not be the best technique for you. I personally use it pain-free, but always listen to your body and adjust as needed. With your left hand at 7 o'clock, cup the base of the clay as you did before. Then, take your right hand, place it on top of your left wrist, and firmly hold it in place. This locks your left hand in place, helping the clay conform without extra movement. After a few seconds, you'll notice that the clay is partially centered. Then you want to come in with your right hand at 5 o'clock, Use the blade move as we did before to finish it off, pressing down while your left hand stays anchored. Hold steady until the clay is smooth and centered, then slowly pull your hands away. The great thing about learning to center and mastering this is that the more you do it, you will automatically know when it is centered through feeling the clay as well as visually seeing it. It'll become intuitive and automatic. Hack number 9, cone up and down, which really isn't a hack. It's basically a classic move when learning how to center at the wheel. Coning is a classic move that's typically taught when learning how to center your clay. I figured I'd just quickly go over it. Coning is basically wedging, but on the wheel. It helps to further align the clay. With your left hand at 7 o'clock and your right hand at 5 o'clock, both wrapped around the clay, you're going to squeeze from the base upward into a cone. Apply pressure at 7 o'clock with your left hand and at 1 o'clock with your right hand. I like to keep my left hand slightly higher than my right for better control. So once you have your clay in the shape of a cone, you are now going to cone down. So shape your hands like a butterfly, thumbs pressing at the peak. Push down in a diagonal forward motion until the clay returns to a pug shape. You're going to repeat this as needed, which will depend on how well you wedged your clay in the beginning or how much clay you're actually working with at the wheel. Hack number 10, practice, practice, practice. Practice your booty off. Centering is a skill that only gets better with practice. If you're starting out, I recommend setting aside time just for centering. Don't even try to make anything. Just get used to the feel of the clay. Maybe prep multiple 1.5 to 2 pound balls of clay and spend a session, a whole day, doing nothing but centering. Eventually, it's going to become second nature and you won't even have to think about it. My final hack, number 11, flow with it. Playing with clay isn't about perfection, well, at least for me. It's about having fun, learning and adapting, getting in touch with creative flow. It's about being present, embracing the process, and letting the clay guide you as much as you guide it. I hope this video helped you in your clay journey. If you have any tips, requests, or advice, please leave them in the comments below. That is a wrap for my centering hacks. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoyed it. And until next time, stay flowy!